But our top focus this morning is that high-profile showdown between the Chief Justice of India and the central government in the Gopal Subramanium case. The government has so far refused to react to the objections which have been raised by the CJI RM Lodha. The Chief Justice, remember, yesterday hit out at the centre for segregating Gopal Subramaniam's file from the other three nominees. The Chief Justice saying that news of Subramaniam's file being set aside came as a shock to him and that it was a unilateral decision which was taken by the central government. The CJI has also expressed his disappointment at Subramaniam for making the letter public and added that the independence of judiciary will never be compromised under his watch.
उनकी जो बात है उसमें एक तथ्य तो है कि 4 नाम को वापस भेजना चाहिए था। ये एक को हटाकर 3 को भेजना और राष्ट्रपति उस पर मोहर लगाना, ये तो प्रोसीजरली गलत था।
Now, remember, former Solicitor General of India, Gopal Subramaniam, after withdrawing his nomination for that appointment as a Supreme Court judge, said that he did so because he felt the present government has apprehensions that he would not be towing their line. He had spoken to our National Affairs editor, Bhupendra Chaubey. Listen in.
I understand that you have written a letter to the Chief Justice of the country.
Yes.
Is it true that you're still in contention to be a Supreme Court judge, or have you made up your mind that you're not going to be a judge?
I am not interested in being a judge of the Supreme Court.
You're being absolutely clear on that.
Absolutely clear. And I have reasons for it. 2 factors have worked against me. And I have to say this in fairness.
Sure.
One is, I'm known to be utterly independent, which means I'm also inaccessible. Even as a lawyer, I have been very reserved. Even as a Solicitor General, I was utterly inaccessible.
Congress leader Manish Tiwari now joining us on this big story that we are tracking. Mr. Tiwari, your first reaction to what the Chief Justice has said?
Well, I think the Chief Justice has expressed his anguish in no uncertain terms. You know, for the Honorable Chief Justice to say that the independence of the judiciary would be protected, and I assure 1.2 billion Indians that that would be the case, I think only underscores his anguish. It would be appropriate if the government was to take cognizance of what the Honorable Chief Justice has said. There is a certain laid down procedure by which judicial appointments are made, and if the procedure is not followed, and none less than the Honorable Chief Justice has to express his anguish, then I think it's a very sad day for Indian democracy.
Sir, and in no uncertain terms, the Chief Justice has made it clear that the segregation of Gopal Subramaniam file, he was completely in the dark. It was a unilateral decision taken by the government. So he's coming down pretty hard on the Narendra Modi government.
Well, that's precisely what I'm saying, that, you know, it is unprecedented for the head of the judiciary in the country to express his anguish in this manner. And therefore, as I was earlier pointing out, there is a certain laid down procedure for judicial appointments, and if that procedure is unilaterally gerrymandered with, it's extremely a sad day for Indian democracy, and therefore it is for the government to take cognizance of this anguish and see as to what appropriate steps they can take to ensure that this does not repeat itself in the future.
Mr. Tiwari, you or your party, would you all in any way be taking up the matter now?
Well, that depends upon what the parliamentary party would decide, but I think this is a matter which is beyond just the realm of the legislature. It involves, as the Honorable Chief Justice was pointing out, the prerogative of the Presidium, of the Collegium, to be able to make judicial appointments in the manner in which it is laid down by various Supreme Court judgments. So therefore, the matter is just is more than just you know, some kind of a brownie point scoring exercise. It is important that the government you know, takes cognizance of these remarks and ensures that such a thing is not repeated in the future. And B, you know, it would be appropriate that if they would come out and clear the air, rather than saying that they would not react or refuse to comment.
Right, Manish Tiwari, thank you for speaking with CNN IBN, making your stand and your party stand clear there. But this is some breaking news that we are getting in from government sources who are speaking out on the issue, and they have now said that the right to reconsideration rests with the government. In 2009 too, Veerappa Moily, the then law minister, on the basis of an anonymous letter, had not considered C.K. Prasad's name. Gopal Subramanium himself, also the government sources are saying, had resigned, so government couldn't do anything. If the Supreme Court wanted, it could have sent Gopal Subramaniam's name again. The government would have abided by that. It didn't do so, so the government cannot be held responsible for Gopal Subramaniam withdrawing his nomination, his candidature rather, as a judge of the Supreme Court. The government, sources there clarifying, fully respects the judiciary. Pallavi Ghosh now joins us on the phone line with that breaking news. Pallavi, clearly the government in damage control saying they are not responsible for this latest fiasco.
Absolutely, Pallavi. The point is that yesterday when the Chief Justice of India raised a finger also at the government, it certainly does come across as extremely embarrassing for the government by EC, and the posturing which certainly went across was that the government was taking on the judiciary. So this is the latest clarification is coming by way of government sources that we completely respect the judiciary, that we respect the Chief Justice of India, we do not want to take on the judiciary, but the right for reconsideration is something which rests with the government. The example which has been thrown up is of several past precedents, and what we've pointed out in 2009, remember that point of time the law minister, Mr. Veerappa Moily, had actually withdrawn the name of C.K. Prasad only because he had got an anonymous letter. So that right does rest with the government. The government says it's not witch hunting. We are not against Gopal Subramaniam. Mr. Gopal Subramaniam himself withdrew from the race, and after that our hands were tied. If the Supreme Court has still then insisted, its collegium had still insisted, we would have definitely reconsidered his name. So the government completely washes its hands off the entire controversy.
Right, Pallavi, like you're saying, the government is trying to win that perception battle, at least, that it is not interfering in judicial matters, it respects the judiciary. But Pallavi, from here on, where next do you see this case proceeding, or is it dusted and done with?
Well, the government certainly would want to see it as dusted and done with, but we'll have to wait and watch what Mr. Gopal Subramaniam has to say. Does he really have to say anything on this matter? So far, he wants to maintain that silence. He says, I've said what I really wanted to say. The Chief Justice of India, of course, has already made that statement, and I think it was a very well thought out statement. But I think it's going to be a very, very tricky situation hence on, and that's the reason why the government is trying to also placate the judiciary and set the record straight. You know, the situation where the judiciary is in conflict, executive or the legislature, is not a very happy situation, and one of the biggest troubles for the UPA has always been that, Pallavi, it was always in conflict with the judiciary. So I think that's the reason why the government really wants to nip the entire controversy in the bud.
Pallavi Ghosh, thank you for getting us up to speed on that breaking news, with the government sources there clarifying that they fully respect the judiciary in the Gopal Subramaniam case, but the right to reconsideration rests with them. We'll be tracking that big story. We'll be waiting, like Pallavi said, as to what Gopal Subramaniam now has to say. Much more on that on our website, ibnlive.com.